There was an important Premier League game this weekend where Chelsea hosted Arsenal, top of the table Premier League clash, refereed by one of the top referees in the Premier League, Anthony Taylor. He decided early in the match to issue yellow cards. Some referees could have managed that situation. The game was very, very nervous. Players were going into challenges, certainly hyped, maybe by the crowd, the coaches, but the players were going into challenges, and that escalated when Caicedo went into a challenge with Moreno. He's certainly gone over the top of the ball. He catches Moreno on the shin with his studs, with speed, and certainly with some force. And therefore, it certainly met the criteria of a red card, because he can clearly endanger the safety of his opponent. And certainly that type of challenge with the studs, that on that part of the leg can break a leg. Anthony Taylor doesn't see this incident because he plays the advantage, and he comes back and issues a yellow card. So he certainly doesn't see it, because referees would, if they see a red card challenge like that, they would instantly stop the game. So he doesn't see it. It was recommended by the VAR to watch it, and when you watch it in slow motion, and certainly watch it in real time, you can clearly see the impact, the speed, and that type of challenge. And the VAR was correct to recommend the review on Anthony Taylor to change his original decision to a red card. The player can have no complaints when you watch back this type of challenge, because in the Premier League now, these type of challenges will always be issued with a red card. Certainly when you put studs on an opponent's shin with some speed, it certainly can endanger the safety of the opponent. So I don't think the player can have any complaints. And then there was another incident where Chalobah went up with an aerial challenge with an Arsenal player. Chalobah certainly, after the challenge, the aerial challenge, had a mark on his face. But when you look at the challenge, you see this type of challenge, and what referees are looking for is, does he swing his arm into his opponent? And he definitely jumps. You look at his eyes are focused on the ball. That's not always a get out clause, but you look at also the hand, and the hand is quite open. So when players are jumping for the ball, they normally have an open hand, because they're trying to get elevation. And normally when you have an open hand, you're not using it for force. When players clench their fist and swing an arm, they're getting some force used. So referees can sometimes use that difference between an open hand and a closed hand to recognize if the arm has been used as a tool to jump, or a weapon to put the elbow to an opponent's face. And I think Anthony Taylor calls this one correct. The arm is open, the hand is open. He's using it for elevation. He does catch his opponent, but therefore this would be classed as a reckless challenge and a yellow card issued. And I think when the VAR looks at this, he would have examined how the hand is open or closed, how the player jumps, does he look at his opponent. All of these elements certainly weren't met to reach the criteria of a red card. So I believe Anthony Taylor called this one correct. And then we had a situation in the Crystal Palace Manchester United game, which hasn't really been seen in the Premier League much. There was a rule change last season where FIFA and IFAB changed, where if there is a double touch, and it's accidental double touch, the penalty kick will be retaken, which caused, there was a Champions League game, I think some seasons ago, where it created a huge debate in such a big moment. But the law was clear then that if you made a double touch, it would be an indirect free kick. But now they've changed the law that if a player makes an accidental touch at a penalty kick, the penalty will be retaken. And Mateta, when he takes the penalty, it looks like his foot shaped to go where the goalkeeper is actually diving, but it seems to take another touch of his second foot, which diverts it into the other side of the goal. And that double touch certainly created an issue for the goalkeeper. And the VAR was correct to highlight this to the referee and to make a retake. I think this is a great law change, because when a player accidentally does it, it's not a deliberate action. And a penalty kick should be retaken, because it felt unfair when it's an accidental contact for an indirect free kick to be taken, especially if you slip, for example, at the taking of the penalty. So the penalty was correctly retaken, and Mateta scored from the penalty kick. So fairness was raised, I do like this law change, but it's certainly previous seasons, this would have been an indirect free kick and Crystal Palace wouldn't have had a second chance. But with this new law change, it allowed Crystal Palace to score the penalty kick.